Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I show you how to divide and plant perennial salvia. So let's go. Did you know that there are annual varieties of salvia as well as perennial varieties? Well, the one that I'm talking about today is a perennial variety. In this video, I'm going to give you a plant profile of the salvia that we're going to plant today. However, if you have any type of perennial salvia in your landscape, this video will be helpful because I'm going to go over my tips on how to divide the plant. I bought the salvia earlier in the season. It's called Color Spire's Azure Snow. It thrives in full sun and it grows somewhere between 18 to 20 inches in height. It's hardy from zones 3 through 8, so it's a perfect plant for me to have in my landscape. And what I like about it is not only does it bloom late spring to early summer months, but it has a beautiful color to it. This colorful perennial produces deep violet blue and white bicolor flower spikes. And not only that, the foliage is aromatic. And what I'm excited to see next year when it blooms is that it attracts butterflies as well as the hummingbirds. Even though this plant is considered drought tolerant, the more moisture you give it, the better it will bloom for you. After it does its initial flush of flowers, if you cut it back, it will produce more flowers for you. And I did notice that when I had it, even though it was in its container pot, I noticed that it bloomed for me throughout the season. This plant is considered deer and rabbit resistant, but you know how it is. If there's not enough food out there, you may find that the deer or even the rabbits may nibble on it a little bit. So now I'm going to show you my process for dividing the salvia. And again, if you have salvia in your landscape, you can follow along. The best time to divide salvia is either in the very early spring months or in the late summer, early fall months. Just make sure you're doing it when the weather has cooled down, and make sure that you're giving the plant plenty of water once you've divided and moved it around. Could I take this whole plant and just plant it out in my landscape the way it is? Absolutely. But I figure we might as well turn one plant into at least two plants, if not more. So the first step is let's go ahead and take it out of its container. So I'm just going to squeeze the sides of the pot to loosen up the roots. The plant is actually not very pot bound or root bound. If it was, you would see the roots circling all around. But nevertheless, you can see that if I try to do this, I can't really loosen up the roots. So I'm actually going to use this type of small tool. It's like a hand rake. And I'm just going to gently rake the roots like this. And the reason I'm doing that is just to rough up the roots a little bit. And that will make it a little bit easier for us to try to divide it. I'm going all the way around. And if you didn't have a tool like this, that's totally fine. Use whatever you have on hand. If you have nothing, you could just use your hand or your fingers and pull it apart a little bit. The next thing I want to do is see if the plant can try to fall apart on its own. And I'm noticing that it's not. It's pretty tight in the center here. So what I can try to do is look and see if there's an area where I can try to make a division or a cut. And by the way, if you had a very large salvia in your landscape, you could leave the salvia in the landscape, take a shovel, and cut right down in the center here. Again, you could do that in the spring or in the fall months. But since we have this out of its pot, we're going to try to make the division just like this. And what I'm going to do is use a different tool. This is just a hand pruning saw. There are a lot of different brands out there. The brand for this one is called Corona. And since I'm not finding a great area where I can make an easy division, I'm just going to go ahead and try to cut right down the center of it. And all we're going to do today is we're just going to try to start with turning one big plant into two smaller plants. And to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and cut right here in the center. And then I can go ahead and pull it apart. And for the price of one plant, we just turned one plant into two plants. And I'm examining the top of the plant to see realistically, can I divide this plant down a little bit more if I wanted to? And it looks like right here, I should be able to divide this one more time. So I'm going to try to do that again. I'm going to try to cut right in here. And it's really up to you how small you want to make your divisions when it comes to dividing any plant. So we're going to be cutting right around here. Now let's see if we can pull this apart. And that's as far as I want to divide these two pieces. And with any of the leaves that have fallen off, we can put those in the compost pile. Here's the other section, and same thing, I'm going to look at the top, and I just want to see if it's feasible for us to try to divide this down. It looks like I should be able to divide it down, again, probably at least in half. So we're just going to cut right down the center here. Whenever you're using any sort of sharp tool, you always just want to be careful. And you can also use different tools for cutting. You might be able to use something like a reciprocating saw, like a Sawzall. Now let's see if we can pull this apart. And we just turn that section into two sections, and that's probably as far as I want to take that. And not bad. For the price of one plant, we were able to turn that into 4 smaller plants. So let's go ahead and get these planted in the landscape. Here on the south side of my house, this is an area that is considered full sun. And I call this the long border. It's a mixed long border with a ton of different herbaceous perennials. And like I mentioned, I don't have any perennial salvia in my yard. I thought it would look so pretty to add the perennial salvia in this long border. This area is set up on drip irrigation, so the soil is very wet. If you were to plant salvia in your landscape, you want to make sure you're adding water into the planting hole. You can do it before you plant your plant, or you can do it right after you plant your plant. It really is up to you. For a planting depth, you just want to make sure that the roots are beneath soil level and that the crown or the base of the plant is flush and at the same level as the soil. Since this division is pretty small, I was able to use a small hand shovel to make my hole. And I can go ahead and get that placed, again, with the crown being at the same level as the soil. And then I can backfill. If the soil was dry, I would go ahead and give this a nice drink of water. We have rain also coming this afternoon, so between the soil already being wet and rain coming this afternoon, this plant will be perfectly fine. For this year, my focus in terms of the long border that we're currently planting in is to get these perennials that love full sun out into the yard. And I have to basically give it a year or two to see how do they look. Do they need to be moved up towards the front of the border or the back of the border because of their height? Sometimes you just need to take a chance and get something planted out in the landscape. My one big suggestion is make sure that you're planting it, though, in the right sun area. So I know that they're going to do fine out in this area because it is full sun. I just don't know how they're going to do in terms of their height, but they are going to be much better off out in the landscape than they will be in their potter container over the winter. So I just want to make sure that the roots are beneath soil level and that the crown or the base of the plant is flush with soil level. And then I can backfill. Press around it and then backfill again. I got the other salvia planted elsewhere in this long border. It's really tight quarters, so I just had to tuck them in little areas where I could. I can't wait to see what they look like in the future years, and I'll definitely bring you along whenever I do garden tours. I love to show you what's blooming in my yard. Remember, spring and fall are great times to get plants put into the ground, be it brand new plants that you've bought or plants that you're dividing around your landscape. In fact, I have a whole playlist that has to do with plant propagation. I'll put a link to that playlist down in the description below. If you have any questions or comments, I love hearing from you. Please drop it down in the comments. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.